ದುಂಫತ್ ಕೆ ಇಸ್ತಿಮಾಲ್ ಕುರುಂ ಅದಿ ರಾಬುಯಿಂ ಫದ ಆದಕಾದ ತಂ ಹಿಮೆನೆ
Making headlines this hour, President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu underscores the foundational role of strong families in shaping the nation's trajectory. President reveals plans to move the legislation for a public referendum to revise the process for holding all the elections concurrently. Maldives explores cooperation with Kuwait on enhancing the island nation's religious affairs and Islamic education.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu underscores the foundational role of strong families in shaping the nation's trajectory as he marked the International Day of Families. In a message shared on social media, he extended well wishes to Maldivian families, expressing hope for their continued prosperity and stability. The International Day of Families, established by the United Nations General Assembly in 1993, provides a global platform to highlight social, economic, and demographic factors affecting family structures. Observed annually on the 15th of May, the occasion reinforces the importance of policies that strengthen and support households. Against this backdrop, President Muizzu reaffirmed Islam's emphasis on preserving and reinforcing familial bonds. He noted that the nation's future is deeply intertwined with the strength and well-being of Maldivian families. Offering prayers for their continued success, he reiterated his administration's commitment to fostering an environment in which families can flourish. Strengthening family cohesion has emerged as a priority for the government, which has rolled out key initiatives to empower households. One such effort involves facilitating the reintegration of elderly individuals currently under state care into family settings, ensuring they receive support in familiar environments. At the same time, the government has launched a nationwide assessment to gain deeper insight into the challenges families face. The Ministry of Social and Family Development is leading the Halukihine initiative, which collects comprehensive data on household dynamics and living conditions. Implemented in all but 5 atolls, the program generates insights that inform targeted assistance measures for families in need. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu reveals plans to move the necessary legislation next month on holding a public referendum to revise the electoral process in holding the presidential and parliamentary elections concurrently.
Speaking during the 6th episode of the Raithun Naiku podcast, the president emphasized that genuine public empowerment can only be achieved when the authority to remove elected officials from office rests with the people themselves. He stressed that there is no need to replicate the systems of other countries. Instead, the Maldives can strengthen democratic power in a manner that boosts public confidence. The president pointed out that only a 6-month period divides the presidential and parliamentary elections, highlighting the potential benefits of holding the 2 main elections concurrently, particularly for a country like the Maldives. He also expressed support for the introduction of a preferential voting system for presidential elections. He stated that this reform could eliminate the need for a second round of voting, thereby reducing costs and increasing efficiency. However, he added that the implementation of such a system would follow thorough research and public consultation. According to the president, this change would encourage greater citizen participation and enhance the likelihood of electing a candidate with broad public support. During the podcast, the president also shared his vision to limit the growth in the number of members of parliament. He pointed out that parliamentary seats are currently allocated based on population ratios, and while representation is essential in a democracy, it is equally important to maintain a practical and manageable parliament. As such, he proposed a legal amendment to cap the number of MPs at the current figure of 93. The president also discussed planned revisions to committees. He stated that the government intends to restructure atoll councils by setting a composition of 3 members for populations under 2,000 and 5 members for populations exceeding 2,000. Additionally, to ensure that funds allocated to councils are utilized effectively and in the best interests of local communities, the Ministry of Finance and Planning will be engaged to assess and monitor their use. On all these matters, the president reiterated that public opinion will remain central to decision-making. He affirmed that no decision will be made unilaterally, and all major changes will be subject to the public consultation and, where appropriate, referenda. He underscored the importance of inclusive governance in securing the long-term development of the nation.
Maldives explores cooperation with Kuwait on enhancing the island nation's religious affairs and Islamic education. During the ongoing official visit to Kuwait, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdullah Khalil, met with the Minister of Endowments and Islamic Affairs of Kuwait, Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Muhammad Al-Wasmi. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said both ministers discussed avenues for enhancing cooperation in religious affairs and Islamic education. Minister Dr. Khalil is undertaking this official visit on the invitation of Minister of Foreign Affairs of the State of Kuwait, Abdullah Ali Al-Yahya. During the visit, he had held discussions with Kuwait's focusing on strengthening bilateral cooperation and exploring new opportunities for partnership. The minister had also met his Kuwaiti counterpart, where the two ministers engaged in extensive discussions on advancing the Maldives-Kuwait relationship, marking 48 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. The foreign ministers reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthening the bilateral cooperation in key areas including tourism, trade and investment, renewable energy, health, aviation, and people-to-people exchanges. Later on Wednesday, Minister Dr. Khalil had briefed the Minister of Finance and Minister of State for Economic Affairs and Investment of Kuwait, Dr. Noura Sulaiman Salam Al-Fassam, on the current fiscal situation and highlighted the positive trajectory of economic developments. Kuwait has been an invaluable development partner for the Maldives, providing generous support and assistance over the years, most notably through the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development for the expansion of Velena International Airport and assistance provided for the Small Island Hospital Development Project through loan facility granted in 2024. Minister of Sports, Fitness and Recreation, Dr. Abdullah Rafiu, meets the Ambassador of China to Maldives, Kong Si-Huan. During this meeting, Minister Rafiu and Ambassador Kong engaged in discussions on strengthening collaboration between the Maldives and China in the field of sports development. The Ministry of Sports, Fitness and Recreation. It added that they also explored opportunities for cooperation aimed at enhancing sport infrastructure, athlete exchange programs, and other initiatives to promote the growth of sports in the Maldives. The ambassador, in a post on X, insisted that China will firmly support the development of sports in the Maldives, adding that he was looking forward to strengthening sport cooperation between the two sides. The government is moving forward with plans to establish a domestic airport in Mativeri, Alifa Atoll, formally inviting expressions of interest from local and international investors. The atoll remains one of the few in the country without air connectivity, a gap government officials aim to address through this initiative. The Ministry of Construction, Housing and Infrastructure is seeking proposals from entities with demonstrable financial capacity and technical expertise. Submissions, according to the ministry, will be accepted until the 15th of June, with the selected party expected to play a pivotal role in advancing the project. The ministry officials have outlined a cross-subsidization model, allowing the chosen investor to offset initial costs through commercially viable components integrated into the development. The ministry said additional financing approaches, including contractor financing, public-private partnerships or PPP, and loan-based models are also under consideration. Plans for the airport include a 1,500-meter-long, 30-meter-wide runway, alongside critical infrastructure such as a taxiway, apron, passenger terminal, fire station, and service roads. The scope extends to essential facilities designed to ensure operational efficiency. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz has placed infrastructure expansion at the center of his administration's agenda, reaffirming last year that the Mativeri Airport project would move forward in 2025. He underscored its economic viability, highlighting its role in strengthening the tourism sector and fostering broader economic growth. Italian passenger liner MS Ida Stella arrives in the Maldives carrying over 2,000 passengers. This is the second passenger liner to dock in the island nation this month.
The cruise liner, which operates for tourists from Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, arrived in Maldives on 14th May. According to the Maldives Customs Service, inboard clearance was granted to passenger liner MS Ida Stella, arrived in the Maldives on 14th May, carrying a total of 2,022 passengers and 628 crew members. The Maldives remains a popular destination for cruise tourism, with frequent visits from international cruise lines. A large number of cruise lines visit the Maldives every year. On 4th May, the Indian passenger liner MS Nautica brought 610 tourists and 397 crew members arriving in the Maldives from the Indian port of Mormugao. Recognizing the sector's importance to the economy, the current administration had intensified efforts to strengthen cruise ship tourism. To facilitate this growth, the government has embarked on developing 3 specialized harbors across different regions to accommodate cruise ships. With the government's focus on increasing cruise ship tourism, overall tourist arrivals in the Maldives have continued to rise. According to the Ministry of Tourism and Environment, the nation has welcomed over 897,000 visitors so far this year, reflecting a positive trend in tourism growth.
An update on business. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC grouping, warns that exports in the region will barely grow this year amid U.S. tariffs as the 21-member bloc kicked off an annual gathering of its trade ministers.
APEC projected exports in the region would rise by only 0.4% this year, after increasing 5.7% last year, in its Regional Trends Analysis report released at its 2025 meeting of ministers responsible for trade in South Korea's resort island of Jeju. The bloc also cut its regional economic growth forecast for this year to 2.6% from 3.3% previously.
We have heard announcements of higher tariffs, retaliatory measures, suspension or elimination of benefits or procedures facilitating trade. We have heard about an increase of non-tariff measures affecting trade. And all of this, unfortunately, is not helping business, because what they are doing is to add unprecedented levels of policy uncertainty. This is also eroding investors' confidence, weakening demand, and they could eventually affect jobs, and we are worried about that.
The Trump administration's sweeping tariffs have targeted more than half of the APEC grouping, where regional average tariffs rates fell to 5.3% by 2021 from 17% in 1989, when the Non-Binding Economic Forum was established. This period saw merchandise trade increase more than ninefold.
Now looking at world events, 13-year-old Palestinian Reen Al-Zanati says she woke up to find herself under the rubble in her house in Gaza's Khan Yunis. She added that it was after her father pulled her and her siblings that she knew her uncle's house has been hit in an Israeli airstrike, killing his entire family.
Israeli military strikes killed at least 60 people in the Gaza Strip on May 15th. Palestinian medics said as the United States and Arab mediators pushed for a ceasefire deal and U.S. President Donald Trump visited the Middle East. They said most of the victims, including women and children, were killed in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza in airstrikes that hit homes and tents. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military, which has intensified its offensive in Gaza as it tries to eradicate Hamas in retaliation for the deadly attacks the Palestinian militant group carried out on Israel in 2023. Hamas said in a statement that Israel was making a desperate attempt to negotiate under cover of a fire, as indirect ceasefire talks take place between Israel and Hamas, involving Trump envoys and Qatar and Egyptian mediators in Doha. Israel's genocidal campaign has killed more than 52,900 Palestinians, according to local health officials. It has left Gaza on the brink of a famine, aid groups and international agencies say. The Israeli military says it goes to great lengths to avoid civilian casualties. It says Hamas uses Gaza's civilians as human shields by operating within densely populated areas, humanitarian zones, schools and hospitals, which Hamas denies.
Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdullah Rahman Al Thani pushed back on criticism over his country's offer of a $400 million Boeing 747-8 jet to Donald Trump, saying in a Fox News interview aired on May 14th that the deal was a routine government-to-government transaction, not a personal gift. The proposed handover of the aircraft, which Trump said could be used as Air Force One, has drawn sharp criticism from Democrats and raised red flags among some congressional Republicans. Critics have called it a potential illegal foreign donation and a national security risk. Trump, for his part, dismissed the backlash, calling it stupid to turn down the plane. Sheikh Mohammed emphasized the plane was purchased from an American company and framed the offer as part of Qatar's broader strategic ties with Washington.
First of all, we bought this airplane from an American company. It's basically part of a cooperation that we've been doing a lot together between Qatar and the United States.
On the ongoing war in Gaza, the Qatari leader voiced frustration with the stalled ceasefire talks and high civilian casualties, saying the conflict cannot be resolved as long as one side focuses solely on retrieving hostages while continuing military operations. He reiterated Qatar's efforts to act as a fair mediator in the region and called for broader international engagement to stabilize the Middle East. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova says that Russia's position on a possible peace deal with Ukraine has changed to reflect changes on the front lines where Russia has been advancing. Asked by Reuters if Russia's position had changed since June 2024, when President Vladimir Putin said Ukraine must officially drop its NATO ambitions and withdraw its troops from the entirety of the territory of 4 Ukrainian regions claimed by Russia, Zakharova said, quote, "Yes, there are these changes in the Russian position," unquote. Zakharova quoted Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who in 2024 said that Ukraine shrank in territory every time it walked away from talks with Russia. Russia currently controls a little under 1/5 of Ukraine and says the territory is now formally part of Russia, a position Ukraine and Western Europe do not accept. Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. Russian forces control almost all of Luhansk and more than 70% of Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions, according to Russian estimates. Russia also controls a sliver of Kharkiv region. Zakharova said Moscow was grateful to China and Brazil for seeking a political and diplomatic settlement. Ukraine has repeatedly said that it will never formally recognize Russian control over swaths of its territory, and officials in Kiev say that agreeing to Ukrainian neutrality is a red line they will not cross. Now moving on to sports, winning the Europa League is the least Manchester United can do to salvage a disastrous season, says right-back Diogo Dalot. United are staggering to their worst top-flight season since they were relegated in 1974, with Sunday being their 17th defeat from 36 games and 9th loss at Old Trafford, what was once a fortress. The Red Devils' European form has been one of the few bright spots this season, with Ruben Amorim's side unbeaten across 14 fixtures, and the Europa League final on a berth in next year's Champions League at stake.
Obviously it hurts. It's something that we definitely need to change. Something that it's been quite clear in terms of results. We are not being consistent enough. We're not showing the type of performances that the club should present, especially here at Old Trafford. So it's something that we definitely need to change. We have a lot of work to do. I'm sure that he believes in us as much as we believe in him. So altogether, I think we can turn things around and we can start that as soon as possible.
They take on a Tottenham Hotspur side who have also struggled domestically this season and languish 17th in the Premier League table, one spot below United. Dalot himself remains an injury doubt for next week's season-defining match, along with defensive colleagues Lenny Yoro, Matthias De Ligt and Aiden Heaven. An insight into technology, engineers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, developed an insect-sized hopping robot capable of navigating rugged terrain and carrying heavy payloads, offering potential applications in disaster response and exploration. The thumb-sized device, weighing less than a paperclip, combines a spring-loaded leg with 4 flapping wing modules to leap over obstacles and traverse uneven surfaces like ice, wet glass, and soil. The robot, recently detailed in the journal Science Advances, jumps up to 20 centimeters high, 4 times its height, while using 60% less energy than comparable aerial robots. Its elastic leg converts kinetic energy efficiently, akin to a click pen spring, while flapping wings ensure stability and orientation. This design allows it to carry payloads up to 10 times heavier than those of similar-sized flying robots, enabling the integration of batteries, sensors, and circuits. The robot's control system adjusts its trajectory mid-air, ensuring precise landings across dynamic terrains.
This robot has a passive spring-loaded leg and 4 sets of flapping wing module. The passive leg, just like a tiny pogo stick, makes sure the robot can bounce back efficiently from the ground. On the other hand, the flapping wing modules ensure the robot stay upright for stability.
Funded partly by the National Science Foundation, the project aims to make the robot autonomous by adding onboard power and sensors.
The great things about this robot is that it can traverse various terrain. That's because the controller is generalized enough surfaces. In the very extreme case, where the robots encounter challenging terrains like a steep surface, it can still fly over it if it's needed.
The team sees its agility and versatility as a potential breakthrough for multimodal robotics at such a small scale, making it useful in search and rescue missions where it could access and navigate through confined spaces. That's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News. Thanks for watching.